Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today we'll be talking about the penultimate round of the X2O Trofee in Lille. A very snowy parcours there, and with me there to talk about the action in the snow is Issam.
Hey everybody.
As we said, a snowy parcours there. It made for some interesting circumstances. Issam, how did that influence the men's race?
Yeah, indeed, the snow that came on Saturday night, there it was, and it of course it influenced a little bit the race. It was very difficult conditions. At the start, we didn't have any real problems. We hit the disc brakes really going at it, but it was all right there. Hermans again with a good start. And then we had, of course, after lap 1, we had that sprint for the seconds that were obviously going to be costly for the classification, which was safe for Iserbyt, I guess. Iserbyt won that sprint, Tormans was in second. But after lap 1, it was actually Sweeck that decided that it was his moment to go. He had the legs, he felt that he was going very well, and he decided to make a break for it. Behind him, it was a little bit of issues going on. Orts had a little bit of issues, but Vanthourenhout actually had a kind of controversial moment in the hills, going up there and down, and then he just on a hill he had a hiccup and stopped and blocked Orts basically, and looked behind to see where Iserbyt was to let him by. Not really the most sportive way of acting, I guess, but that made, of course, the race a little bit more interesting, I would say. Vanthourenhout was looking good behind them, but actually because of what happened there, Van Kessel was the one that got away and was then running in second place at that moment. Iserbyt joined Van Kessel, and into the last lap it was actually still Iserbyt who was Sweeck who was leading pretty comfortably. And then we had behind him Iserbyt and Van Kessel who were there. And Michael Vanthourenhout was trying to make a comeback, trying to get back to that position with Hermans, but it was Vanthourenhout who managed to get to Van Kessel. Iserbyt making mistakes, couldn't manage to hold this position on the podium. Then we had a sprint for second and third place, actually, between Van Kessel and Vanthourenhout, and in the end it was Vanthourenhout who was the strongest to make Pauwels and 1-2. And it was Sweeck winning with Vanthourenhout in second, and Van Kessel bringing the first podium for Tormans in third.
Another strong showing by Sweeck, just like yesterday he took the win. What can we say about this? In my opinion, not a lot. He was clearly the strongest today, took home the victory, and I think it just shows he's the strongest at the moment.
Yeah, I would say that there was, after lap 1, you could already see that he was pretty comfortable riding with the rest, and you could see it on his body language that he was very comfortable with the pace and very comfortable with what he was doing. He was very confident in his way of handling the bike at pretty hard conditions in a way. And he was just simply the strongest today, and just showed it once again. A good demonstration from him and a very deserved winner.
He ended in front of his countryman and teammate Michael Vanthourenhout. Vanthourenhout, I think he should send something like a couple of beers or a couple of flowers to Hermans, because without Hermans, I doubt that Vanthourenhout would have been second today.
Yeah, that was a bit stupid of Hermans, I would say, because he had, of course, his teammate in front. The guys from Tormans still didn't have a podium till that moment in a classified race, and the situation was, of course, that Iserbyt and Vanthourenhout were the second group, or the first chasing group behind Sweeck, and that Vanthourenhout with Hermans were behind. And on the start-finish line, Hermans decided that Vanthourenhout shouldn't be doing anything, and he just tried to chase Iserbyt and Van Kessel, and I think that was kind of dumb and very crucial for the remontada of Vanthourenhout, and that really helped him to get eventually that second place.
I do think it was a big risk what Hermans did there. I mean, yes, they already talked a lot about team tactics, Twan and I, but I think this is different. Tormans, they haven't had a single podium this season in one of the classified races. This is their first one with Van Kessel, but it could very well have ended differently if Iserbyt hadn't made that mistake in the last lap and Hermans eventually ends fifth. I found it very strange to close a gap when you know your teammate is in front and your team is desperate of a podium place.
Yeah, I think that that Van Kessel had no choice in going, because it was pretty easy for Iserbyt to say, I have a teammate in front and I'm not gonna chase. But for Hermans, he should have just played the tactics of saying, okay, I have a guy in front of me now, my teammate who is riding on a podium. We didn't have a podium so far. So it's safer to not chase and just not bring Vanthourenhout back, because what could have happened if Iserbyt was pretty good, it could have happened that Van Kessel would lose both second and third place and would be fourth, and then you would end up with like a huge mistake in a way, in my opinion, and an opportunity lost. Luckily for them, it played out pretty well, but it's not the first time that I have seen them struggle with team tactics, and I definitely think that they should reconsider the events that have been taking place in this season.
I do think that in the end, Corné van Kessel deserved that podium. He looked strong here, and I think he got what he deserved. He was lucky that Iserbyt made that mistake, but also good to see Tormans finally get that podium that they've been after for so long.
Yeah, I agree, and they invest a lot of money in the sports. They have a lot of talented young guys, and also some good women. So I really think that they deserved it in a way. They showed their colors with pride. Van Hermans and Van Kessel in the elites. I think that they really deserved a podium, and for Van Kessel, I think it comes at a very good moment.
Let's run down the entire top 10 then. Behind the podium of Sweeck, Vanthourenhout and Van Kessel, we found European champion Eli Iserbyt in front of Quinten Hermans, Toon Aerts, Felipe Orts in 8th, Lars van der Haar in front of Niels van der Putten in 9th and Daan Soete in 10th. Let's talk about the Iserbyt briefly. Iserbyt yesterday, he was kind of upset by the team tactics played. I do not see why. I already said that yesterday. You can't expect the riders to just put their bikes aside, lay down to their next to their bikes for 30 seconds just so you can catch up, especially because the Super Prestige was already locked up with Aerts in 5th place. Yet today he said that we need to talk about this, what happened here after the season. Very weird. Even weirder to see him then close a gap on his teammate Laurens Sweeck in the second lap.
Yeah, it was weird, and I think there are some issues there. I think there is something not going on, right? Something going on there that's not really working, I would say. There is some frustration for sure from Iserbyt's side, and I think the frustration led him to chase down his own teammate, because he clearly had the chance to give Sweeck an easier gap. I don't think Sweeck really needed that today because he was just the strongest. But still, I think that Iserbyt could have played the team tactics a little bit better to show that he's a team player. He didn't, and he actually made a few mistakes, which costed him the connection with Sweeck, and eventually made it easier for Sweeck to get away. But it was definitely not team tactics or something done on purpose. So I think it's not really good for the team what's happening. They really need to assess the situation, but I think more on Iserbyt's sides than on anybody else. And I think you already guys discussed about it yesterday, so I won't go too much into the team tactics, but I definitely think that Iserbyt should look more to himself and look in the mirror and say, if could they actually have done anything more than they already did, and maybe just be thankful for the situation that you have two teammates that are very strong, and maybe you can use that in the following seasons.
I definitely think it's not good for the team spirit either, because, I mean, it's already not good that Iserbyt says things like that. If you want to do that, keep it private. Don't just say, no, nothing is all going on. Play the game. And what makes it even worse, in my opinion, is that you have the team manager, Jurgen Mettepenningen, standing at the Sporza pre-race, what they did, their pre-race show. First he said, yeah, no, what happened yesterday, we did tell them to wait on Eli, but eventually Sweeck and Vanthourenhout made the right decision. And as soon as the interview with Iserbyt has been played, he turns 180 degrees, and all of a sudden he's talking about, yeah, no, we do need to discuss this because I'm not happy. It's not good if your team leader or manager is saying things that he doesn't agree with the decision that was made, but just seconds before he said he did agree with the decision that the riders made.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on that one. That's not looking good. And I think at this moment, what the teams need is a little bit more authority and better rules and a little bit more honesty and transparency in a way. Because I have the feeling that some people in that team think that they are the sole leaders, especially what Iserbyt achieved in the last 2 years. I think that with his European championships and the amount of races he has won in the last 2 years, I think he thinks that he is the leader. But I definitely think that Sweeck and Vanthourenhout made huge steps, and I feel that they also think that they are more equal to each other. And I think that Iserbyt thinks that he is a little bit more superior, and that definitely needs to be something they have to work on for next season. Because let's be honest, they are by far the strongest team if Van der Poel, Van Aert, and Pidcock are not there. So they are throwing away a little bit the strength of the team.
Anyway, enough about the things that happened off track. Let's focus on the on track action. I would like to talk about Felipe Orts as well, 7th in his last race of the season. I think he rode a very good last 3 laps of the race. He at some point fell back a bit, but then managed to recover 7th place. Good showing by him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad result at all. I think he started pretty well, and then I was kind of hoping that he might actually be able to even sneak a top 5, because with snow you never know. But he fell back a little bit, but his last few laps were pretty strong, like you said, and I think definitely a strong finish for him. And I definitely think that he is going to the break with a lot of confidence for next season, and he's probably having plans to improve his results for sure.
Well, then we can talk about the women's race. A race where the classification was actually still on the line. 38 seconds separated Brandt and Betsema before this race started. The parcours was treacherous. It was a bit more slippery than the men's race. And it was Betsema who took the fastest start, with Brandt in 3rd or 4th place. And Betsema, she immediately attacked in the first lap, opened the gap, took the bonification seconds at the end of the lap, and Brandt ended 3rd there. So Betsema took 10 seconds out of Brandt on bonification seconds. And at that point, it looked like Betsema was having another day like she had yesterday. It was going to be an easy win. But for a couple of laps, every lap she managed to stretch away, but every lap she was caught. Sometimes it was because she made a mistake, another time it was because the riders behind her closed the gap, another time it was because she went into the pits. So every lap she got caught again, and that was pretty weird to see, because she did look the strongest, but she never really got away from a group behind her, which was Kant and Alvarado mainly. Brandt and Vorst, they were connecting with that group and then dropping again. And then we came into with 4 laps out of the 5 laps done, so 2 laps to go. It was the lead for Betsema. Until then, all of a sudden, the race exploded. Betsema made a mistake, Kant made a mistake, Vorst made a mistake, and all of a sudden Brandt, who was 20 seconds down at some point, came back. And that was even weirder, because at the moment she connected, Alvarado made a last minute decision to change bikes, and Betsema, she seemed to think, oh, I need to follow Alvarado, not knowing that she was then going to ride into the pit zone. And because of that, Brandt came back. Betsema was in a bad position, 4th. And from there on, Brandt, she eventually overtook Kant and managed to put down the hammer, ride full gas, and in the last lap she dropped Betsema and Kant, who had a slow puncture in that last lap. And in the end, it was a sprint between Brandt and Alvarado, and it was Brandt who actually lost, because she started very early in the sprint. She said afterwards that was because she wanted every second for the classification. So it was Alvarado who won in front of Brandt, and then Betsema 3rd, who managed to beat Kant, who had that slow puncture in the last lap. So a very weird race here. What can you say about the race of Brandt? Because at some point she looked to be in the mud, her classification was at risk, she was 20 seconds down, and eventually she goes away here with a bigger lead in the classification than what she came here.
Yeah, I think her goal of this race was pretty clear. She was riding for the classification. However, I think with the lead she had, she could have played it a little bit more tactically. Especially how she was acting in the first few laps. I think especially the first lap where she tried to where she actually sprinted for 3rd place for the first lap to get those, I think, 5 seconds bony seconds on your classification. to manage the gap to Betsema, because Betsema, of course, crossed the line first on the first lap and got 15 seconds. So it was 10 seconds that she gained there. And that cost her a little bit, I think. She was obviously not really comfortable in the snow. Technically, she was losing a little bit, but I think she was overcompensating. She was trying too much to use the power in her advantage. And if you are in the red with the snow, you basically lose a little bit more time. And it was quite remarkable, her recovery, because halfway through the race I wouldn't give her a penny. I would say that she would lose like probably 30 seconds or something, and actually even thinking about losing that classification in the penultimate race. So yeah, I think that she rode at the end a good race, and that she was a little bit lucky with the circumstances, but definitely also very strong recovery, and finishing second was the highest possible, I would say, after everything that happened in the first few laps.
I also think it has to do with confidence. In the beginning, she looked less confident in the snow. She said she had never raced in the snow, never ridden through the snow at race speed. And throughout the race, her lines through the corners got better and better. And then to end second, I mean, I think she could have won if she wanted to ride for the win here. She clearly prioritized the classification, which is right for her to do because she wants that Grand Slam. She already has, how many, 12 or 13 victories this season. So I think at the end she made the right choice, and it is at the end of the day also the classification that pays the most money to the women. 30,000 euros for the winner and 20,000 for the second. So that's a significant difference.
Yeah, indeed, equal prize money for both the men and the women, which is very good, and it's also the highest paid indeed. And yeah, I think, like I said, that was her goal. Her goal was to win the classification. She didn't come to Lille to win the race, and that was clear. And I think fair play from Alvarado just to stay in the wheel and be able to capitalize on Brandt only riding for the classification and winning that race.
Well, of course, we need to mention Alvarado took the win here. Also for her, at some point, she didn't look to be the strongest there either. She was always, like she said herself, in the chasse patate, chasing behind Betsema and Kant. And eventually, when those two made mistakes, she managed to come back. But she took the win in the end. I didn't fully see that coming. In the end, I do think that she was one of the stronger riders, but I think things went horribly wrong for Betsema and Kant, mainly because throughout 80 or 90% of the race I had the feeling that those two were the strongest riders.
I think Alvarado also in the first lap she had a crash where she tried to pull herself through the corner with one hand and one hand on the steering wheel and made a mistake, went on the snow, and that obviously doesn't help. But it didn't look she didn't look really strong, especially mid race. And indeed, I think Kant was looking very strong, and Betsema, of course, leading the race for the majority, I guess, was also looking very strong. But that I think this race was really, everybody had his weak moments. Some had a bigger one than others, but at the crucial moments at the end of the race, it were Alvarado and Brandt that had their best moment, and Betsema and Kant with the slow puncture obviously did have a little bit worse moment than the others.
That slow puncture for Kant was really unfortunate. I genuinely thought she could win here. She raced on her experience, in my opinion, and she deserved a podium at the least, but I would say that she was seriously in contention for the win here.
I think that the win indeed was maybe possible, but then in a sprint she should have finished strong. But I definitely think that she was in contention for a podium. She could have easily been in front of Betsema, I think, which had also problems with her pedals. She said she was getting out of her pedals more than ever, and was struggling as well with her bike. So they were both unfortunate, but Kant was a little bit more unfortunate with that slow puncture, and yeah, eventually not getting the reward because she was doing a very constant, strong race. And yeah, it was a shame for her to not see her on the podium.
I think what you said about Betsema, that she couldn't clip into her pedals, it's something that comes with these type of conditions. Brandt had that as well in some part of the race, but I think Betsema also made a mistake to switch tire threads. Eventually she switched to Reno. I don't know exactly what she was riding on before, but after she switched to Reno, she kept digging herself more and more into the sand, and I don't really understand why you would switch to Reno here, because for those 5 corners I could see where you could potentially have the benefit of the extra grip. I don't see the benefit there. And after that bike change, you just saw things going downhill for her.
Yeah, the bike chains didn't help for sure, and obviously then she took another bike chains as well. She took two, I think, which didn't help. And this, especially at this race, it was very clear that if you would change bikes, it would take a lot of time. It would take more time, obviously, but even more than in a normal regular race. You know, the decision is probably not made by her. She was maybe complaining about something, or one of the team members said that it was a good idea to go on the Rhinos, but I think that was a poorly judged decision, and not really a decision that was justified, and in the end was also the wrong one, I guess.
And we can't forget Betsema also has this tendency of falling back through races where she starts very fast. We've seen that at the World Championships, we've seen it before, and I think that also played a factor today, that because she went so hard in the beginning, she paid for that later on in the race, and she never really broke away from the rest because of those mistakes she made.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that if she didn't change tires twice, she would have gained at least, I would say, 5 to 10 seconds. Well, maybe the race would have played a little bit different for her, especially. But you know, in the end, she made that decision, and it is what it is. And she comes out in third, and was again at the end not really. She was at the end happy with what happened. She was not really happy, but she was in the end she was accepting the loss. While I would be very disappointed, because I think she had a big chance of making a huge step in this classification.
Well, that second bike change, do you think that she really intended to change, or do you think that she was just blindly following Alvarado, and then all of a sudden saw Alvarado already turning, that she thought, oh, I need to turn as well, and then accidentally went into the pits?
I should have watched it again, but I think that she might have been going there accidentally, to be honest, because there was, in my opinion, no reason to switch bikes. To be honest, there was no reason at all to switch bike, in my opinion. Only if you wanted to change any tire pressures or something, but anything else was not really needed. And that would have been a costly mistake if it was accidental. But she didn't talk about it, so maybe it was something she did on purpose. But I guess we never know.
I can see why you would change bikes, but one time should be enough in that race, because if your pedals are full with snow, it's harder to clip in or to clip out, as we saw Sanne Kant, who couldn't clip out at the barriers. I do see the reason then to change, but if you've already changed in 1.5 laps ago, I don't really know why you would go in again. Anyway, let's run down the entire top 10 then. We already talked about the top 4 of Alvarado, Brandt, Betsema and Kant. Behind that we see Vorst in front of Van der Heijden, Van Empel, Bakker, Kastelein and Eva Lechner rounds off the top 10. We're going to keep it short about the riders here. We don't really know how their races unfolded, not a lot of coverage. So I do want to mention Annemarie Vorst, a much better performance for her than what she had yesterday.
Yeah, Vorst had a all right day. I think a lot of mistakes actually, but at the end, managing a 5th place, I think that is already better than what she had yesterday. So I think she's happy that she finished the race today, and that she finished in the top 5. And you know, for her, it ended all pretty well this season, of course, with that World Championships podium, 2nd place. So I think she is just now kind of trying to finish this season and looking forward to the next one.
And I expect her to be back fighting for wins every week next year.
Let's hope so.
Anyway, I think we've covered it then for the penultimate round of the X2O Badkamers Trofee. All we can say is that Brandt and Alvarado, I hope they have some kind of pond in their backyard, because they have a lot of ducks.
Yeah, the duck thing is kind of pathetic in my opinion, and I think Brandt even got 2, one in white with the rainbow, and then the other one, which was the regular one. Which I don't know why that idea. It's fun for once, but I don't think it's really fun to give it every podium. And well, I see where it's coming from. It's a great marketing idea, but I think they should do something else next season.
Anyway, just 4 races left this season. Next weekend we will be talking about the ETIAS Cross in Lokeren and the last round of the X2O Trofee in Brussels. I don't know if we'll be making a preview for Brussels. We will decide later on this week. Issam, thank you for being here.
Thanks for hosting.
And we will definitely be back next weekend with 2 podcasts about the racing. See you guys then. Goodbye.